like to welcome you all to Behind the Scenes, this year's Virginia Wine Month. This October, we've done several of these programs. Thrilled tonight to have a couple of new guests and winemakers with us. Lance and Reggie, you want to come on screen? Great.
Hey,
Hi. So first I'd like to introduce Lance Lemon. He is an alum of the university, drama major, who's had a super interesting career path in acting, moving to wine, et cetera, that he will share with us tonight. And also joining us, Reggie Leonard, who is head of career development at UVA School of Data Science, but he has a major sideline passion for wine in addition to his job at UVA. So he'll join us tonight also to talk about wine in Virginia. But while we're all here talking about wine, we all want to start drinking wine. So Lance, if you could start us off, I think you said you wanted to go with the Blenheim first.
Yeah. So please, everybody, pour your wine up, and I'm so glad to have y'all, and happy Virginia Wine Month. And Robin, thanks so much for putting this together for the Wahoos out there in the world and everybody that's around UVA culture. It's strong, and I'm glad to drink some juice with y'all. But we're going to start with the Blenheim Ricatatelli. So the first one, orange label, but definitely, can you see that? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So I hate to drag these things along and not have any wine in the glass. So I figured we could get to going, but definitely want to start with the Blenheim Ricatatelli. Blenheim is shout out to Dave Matthews. It is Dave Matthews Winery out in the Monticello region. There are 7 AVAs, but it's actually closer to like Madison, Gordonsville County, near Charlottesville. The Ricatatelli is a grape that is originally from the Republic of Georgia. It's known to make these very intense orange wines, right? Like skin contact orange wines. Orange wines are wines that are that spend time with the skin for an extended period of time, like red wines, right? So it gives these wines like an orangish color. They used to sit in these things called qvevris that are from the Republic of Georgia. And these things qvevris are like these big clay pots that sit underneath the ground. And they're known to make this orange wine out of Ricatatelli grapes. I say all this because I found this wine so interesting when Blenheim had it, right? And they're sourcing their grapes from Horton Vineyards. But I just found that Blenheim just had this kind of like new kind of identity and just new experimental kind of love for their like wines and just really good juice. But this is not an orange wine. This is just a regular white wine made from the Ricatatelli grape. And I hope y'all enjoy it. It's very floral, a lot of apricot, some lemon zest. But yeah, get it in your glass.
Is that Lance Lemon Zest?
Lemon zest.
Can you say why you keep calling it juice?
Yeah, I just that's a good. I think that it just loosens up the overall feel of wine. I think that sometimes we forget that we're drinking fermented grape juice. It just takes it out of context. I got kids now, but one of my favorite SpongeBob episodes when they're like, no pinkies, like pinky high, like you got to keep your. I'm always like pinky down, just drink the juice.
That's
I love
great.
it.
Yeah.
So also I want to just mention to our attendees, if you have any questions as we go along, please enter those in the chat. If you have any comments about the wine that we're drinking, please feel free to enter any of those notes in the chat. We'll get to those. And Lance sent us a little footage from a couple of vineyards, a processing facility that's in Waynesboro that we pieced together. So now that we have our wine in hand, we're going to run a very quick little video that Lance is going to narrate for us.
There should be some doo-doo-doo-doo right there, background music. That's Reggie and I. We're at Blenheim. This is the wine that you're drinking at Blenheim Vineyards, and that's another winery out in Lovettsville. It's called Dutchman's Creek. That's Ben Jordan, Patrick, and Ben Sedlins. Patrick Collins of Patois, Ben Jordan of Commonwealth Crush, Ben Sedlins of, that's me, Wahoo at that vineyard, smiling. This is a Commonwealth Crush. This is going to be the second wine that we're going to be tasting. That's Reggie. Commonwealth Crush is in Waynesboro. It is part of this very cool new project that is a custom crush facility that is making really cool, just advancements in just the wine industry and wine. That's Reggie again. Hey, Reggie.
Hey.
Reggie, you want to tell them what that is? That's our Tanat.
Yeah, it's called the What's That, and it's a Tanat, and it's a co-ferment actually of Tanat and Chardonnay, and maybe we can get into that after the video. But that's the red version of it, and then there's also a white version of those same grapes co-fermented.
Yeah, that's what we call a thief. It's, if you kind of think about it, it's like stealing wine. It's like stealing juice. It's a thief, and what I'm right now is I'm sticking the thief in basically in the grapes, and the juice is down low at the bottom. It's right now it's going through maceration. Basically, it's sitting time with the skins, and so that's what's giving it all of its kind of like its flavor, its color. It's making the wine right now. It's giving what that wine will further become. And right now we're just tasting it. We're just kind of just going through the steps of what our wine is kind of gonna be in the future. I think we taste it about once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes. Yep. Between G and I.
Yep.
That's Birdie. It's the dog at Commonwealth. That's Ben's dog. Got to shop Birdie out every time. But that's the barrel room. Barrel room is where you keep all of your wine, just basically in their vessels for aging purposes and next stages. And
can you say where the red stripes are on those barrels?
Yeah, that's just spilt wine juice.
And it's to indicate which ones are red wines versus white. Like, so it's just so no one mixes up the wine.
No one mixes it up. Yeah, no,
that's our white.
That's our white wine.
It's called the What's This, and the red is called the What's That.
And actually, it was still bubbling a little bit. So it's fermenting. It's literally going through its alcoholic process right now. There's Reggie stealing wine. That's Ben. That was perfect timing. Did not plan that. That's our white wine, which we'll talk a little bit more at the end here, that we're making, called What's This? And as you can see, it's kind of orange in color, but it's red grapes in there as well too. This is a really fun process. It's called we're taking the bricks of the wine. We're basically taking the overall sugar content of it. You take this all the way basically throughout until you watch that number get to below 0, so you know that it's now turning into alcohol. This is Commonwealth Crush Tasting Room, which is brand new, lovely, gorgeous. I know Reggie's got some stuff planned there, I think, in the future, and that's Lee Campbell behind there. An amazing tasting room in Waynesboro. That's a Virginia vineyard that we think is King's Family. That's King's Family. And just a varietal shots of just some beautiful Virginia shots. That's Reggie and I at Blenheim again on the famous truck there, and doing our cool man pose.
Yeah, impromptu
cool man pose that will be dropping on our newest album.
I saw a couple of raised hands while you were talking, and if you wouldn't mind just putting any questions in the Q&A box, and I see a couple coming in right now. Do you want to, Lance, just quickly talk about your path after UVA, and then we'll get to the questions? I know people are always interested, how does one become a winemaker, interested in wine, et cetera, and take it professionally?
No, 100%. Yeah, that's I double major in acting and studio art with a focus on cinematography at UVA. I mean, so my life has been in front of film and TV, and just kind of the stage, and I really love performing. And it took me to New York, where my just kind of work had taken me. But in that time, I obviously had a Survivor job, which was just muscling the bartending kind of gig. But for me, I really fell in love with wine through my kind of journey through hospitality. And I was able to kind of manage a couple of wine shops after I sold wine in New York for a little while, for about 2.5 years, and then managed a couple of cool, really just fun, new up and coming vibe setting wine shops in Brooklyn. And as soon as I came back to Richmond, I knew I wanted to continue in wine. But while I was in New York, I found my mentor, who is kind of Ben Jordan right now through by way of Lee Campbell. And, you know, I found out about Virginia wine in New York, which is funny because I wasn't into wine during my time at like UVA and, you know, in Charlottesville and things of that nature. But when I found out Lee went to UVA and that she had a connection to like the wine world, I immediately got attracted to like her group, and in that group was Ben Jordan. And yeah, that's just kind of what led me into wine, and just being a fan of Ben and just working in the cellar at Early Mountain and meeting Reggie. Reggie was one of the first guys I met out at the vineyard in 2000. And tell me, Reggie.
2020.
2020. Yeah.
Maybe 2019, actually. Maybe it was that winter. That's when we started.
Right. Yeah. Reggie and I got invited to go do some, at that time, we were just basically pruning, just prepping the vines for their season to what was to come, basically. And we went out there to learn how to kind of like care for the vines a little bit on a weekend. And Reggie and I just stayed in touch, you know, and here we are today, kind of now not only, you know, working in wine, being Virginia wine supporters, drinking wine, of course, but you know, making a wine as well together.
And Reggie, do you want to, I mentioned you're at data science, and then you have this whole side gig, like you went to tastings at Market Street Wine Shop in Charlottesville, and then took it another step.
Yeah, it's been wild. I mean, I get pretty nerdy about things, and wine is one of those things that's infinitely nerdy. You could get into soil, you could get into grapes, tannin, you could get into culture, you could get into all types of things, and then you could also do the blind tasting thing and become a master of wine, etc. So there's just so many aspects and angles that you can explore the world through wine, or that you can explore in the world of wine. And so that just intrigued me. So I would linger after free tastings at Market Street Wine, would ask more questions. I would come back the next day on Saturday and ask more questions. And then I'm like, I should pay a tax. I should buy a bottle that I would usually not buy, like to thank them. And then that got me into trying really good like expressions of grapes and things like that. And then that got me deeper down the rabbit hole of wine. And so, I mean, every time I met people who worked in wine, they were just so welcoming and just kicked the door wide open to say, come in, like, we'll answer your questions. Here, try this. Have you had this? You should come to this thing. And I'm like, why do they care? Like, I'm not a big buyer. I'm not out here buying wine by the case or anything like that. I'm buying one bottle at a time. And these people are going out of their way to make sure that I know about things. Like, this is a community full of really authentic people. And so, yeah, that's the people are really kind of what really drew me into wine. But Virginia wine specifically, at Market Street Wine in 2018, there was a seated tasting that was $35. And I had never saw myself paying $35 to sit down and drink wine. I'm like, that sounds fancy. That I would, that's like, it was just mentally astronomical for me. And so I went, and it was Ben Jordan and Maya Hood White. Maya Hood White is the head winemaker at Early Mountain. Ben Jordan is the head winemaker for Lightwell Survey and a bunch of other projects. And I tasted just really compelling, interesting, fun, not pretentious at all wines. And Ben followed me on Instagram, like when I followed him, and then he stayed in touch. And then when I got rewarded or awarded a scholarship for studying my first level of WSET through Wine Unify, Ben said, let me know if there's anything I can do to support your journey. And I'm like, why would he do that with all of these people who want to actually be in wine full time? It's crazy. And so he ended up inviting me out to work in the vineyard, and that's where Lance and I really connected. And it was cool, like, to spend a lot of time out there in the vines and planting and just in the dirt. You know, like, wine is often seen as this very fancy, like often pretentious is what it's often seen or presented as being for some people. But then for some people, it's just celebratory as well. But it's farming, you know, like, it's dirty work. And so it was really cool to like be able to build that community in the vines.
That's awesome. I want to just come back, a quick question while we're drinking the white. Bob entered this question. Did you say your white variety has tannin blended in it? And if so, how do you control the tannins of that grape?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
Does it have tannat in it?
Oh,
yeah, sorry about my pronunciation.
No, you're good.
I was going with tannins.
Doesn't have tannin added into. I was like, well, that's a whole nother conversation.
But he asked he was asking how we control the tannins in the tannat in a white.
Got you. Yes. So to answer your question shortly, are basically, we have two wines. They're both of a white grape and a red grape, and vice versa for the white and the red. And his second question was to how do we control the tannin in the Tannat? I think that's
especially in the white.
The question of the white, yeah, that's kind of like what we're going to find out here pretty soon. I mean, we went with a high acid. Well, this is going on a rabbit hole. We went with that high acid kind of white that we thought was going to be a little bit more high acid, but it actually ended up being a little bit more round and high alcohol and more high sugar. So it kind of messed us up a little. Long story short, we're trying to figure out how that works together with like a very tannic red like Tannat, and also something very vibrant like Chardonnay, which we'll talk about in a little bit with the white.
But also to add to that, Lance, we did make the decision to do 2 picks of the Tannat as well.
Right.
And so like we picked, Lance went and picked Tannat early. And then we picked some Tannat later. And so like the benefit to that is less sugar, more acid, less color, and things like that. And so that Tannat was what we started with. And then when we got the second pick of Tannat that had hung on the vine for longer, developed more color, more tannin, etc., we direct pressed that directly into the white. And then like half of it, and then the rest of it we put into the we did like 25% whole cluster, like still on the stems and stuff like that, and the rest on the skins. And we put the Tannat we left on the skins in with the red. And so we kind of treated them differently.
Yeah.
Here's another question that came in with registrations. What are some developing varietals in Virginia outside of Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, and Viognier?
I mean, like you're drinking one, Riccatelli is great. I mean, like this is super like kind of out there and different. I'm really excited about Petit Manseng. Obviously, it's the new golden child of wine right now. It's a small grape with just very thick skin, and it's comes from the Cahors region in France, southwest of France. So it's just used to like really big heat as well too, but it can withstand just a lot of water and a lot of just rain as well too, and just kind of Virginia weather just takes us in this kind of crisscross pattern every year, and we just don't know kind of what we're gonna get or what to prepare for. So obviously, Petit Manseng, we're Reggie and I will both say that we're kind of on the train of hybrids right now. We're super excited to see where that kind of path is going to go with hybrids that are growing here, like Chardonnay, Vidal Blanc, Chamberson. You know, if you keep going, there's a list of just really cool, great varietals. There's some Mencia that I know that Kersey has at Blenheim that I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to go. There's a lot. Yeah,
Albarino is another one too. It's the fastest, most rapidly growing planting of grapes in Virginia. So it hasn't unseeded anything, but it's what people are planting at the fastest rate over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So there was another question about how long after you plant your vines do they start producing fruit?
Like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, about 2 to 3 years.
And what's crazy is that we had that experience. Like Lance and I planted baby vines, a hybrid called Regent or Regant or Regent, like it's pronounced a few different ways. And we tasted it like a couple of weeks ago for the first time. Like Tim Jordan is making a wine out of that, and he's gonna make a pet nat. And he's like, these are the baby vines that you and Lance planted. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Full circle.
Yeah, it is full circle. Yeah, about 2 to 3 years. I mean, like, you obviously, there's a thing of older vines and just maturity of vines and how they kind of start to produce grape and give you yields and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, 3 years and then you can start kind of like, reaping the fruit of your labor.
So in the video, we saw some pictures of Commonwealth Crush, and I know smaller producers use that as a processing facility. I have a question in here. Sounds like the person knows a little bit about it, but small producers of mine, Custom Crush meets incubator meets think tank cooperative. And it's so innovative. So how did you all get involved with Commonwealth Crush, and how do you yourselves use it?
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of goes back to just like this, like the origin of the story, like literally how Reggie kind of explained that, well, why is everybody so nice? Like, why is everybody so just cool and just really genuine of just trying to like make this advancement of Virginia wine? When I met Lee in New York, when she introduced me to Ben, the first thing I wanted to do was get into the vineyards. Like my wine knowledge had been just kind of like very business oriented, like selling wine and running wine shops. And, I'm from, anybody knows, from Mechanicsville, Virginia. I'm a country boy at heart. I love being outdoors. And my first thing was to get outdoors to the vineyard. And so, Lee was like, you got to link up with Ben and get with those guys. And sure enough, I mean, like Reggie mentioned, he invited us out to the family farm, and we would just drive out there on the weekends just to kind of dive ourselves deeper into what we wanted to do, not only in just wine, but learning more about this grape, from wine, grape juice, what we want to do and sell it and make a career out of it. So sure enough, I worked with Ben in the cellar for about 2 years at Early Mountain. Worked just learning how to like make wine and just be around wine, transfer wine. Ben always says it's 3 months of 2 months of harvest, and the rest of the year is literally just moving and transferring juice. And so sure enough, when Ben has his own projects, when he was going to do Commonwealth Crush, which is a phenomenal kind of idea, we were just right there behind Ben and just kind of like big supporters of it, and knew that we had the opportunity to kind of grow within this system that he's been creating this whole time.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like, because their hypothesis over there is that I think everyone in the Virginia wine industry who works in it would say that like we're at the very beginning of it. And so it's been around for a while historically, but then it kind of ebbed and flowed a bit, and then really kind of earnestly restarted in the 80s with Gabriele Rousset planting Barbersville. And so from there is truly the start of the current wave of Virginia wine that we're seeing. And we're only just now seeing our first set of second generation winemakers, like Gabriele Rousset's sons, like, are making their wines now and things like that. Whereas like you look at other wine regions and people are 13 generations in, 20 something 600 years in. And, to compare regions in that way is ridiculous. Like, it's more so looking at the trajectory that we have. And so their hypothesis is that the more people who are making Virginia wine and the more perspectives they bring to wine, the more we can see early on what Virginia wine can be, so that we can really experiment broadly, and kind of really start to hone in on some things that work well and some things that might be our competitive advantage and stuff. And that's where they created this incubator that Lance and I are a part of, and here we are doing some weird stuff. Surprise.
We're like right in the mix of it, and it's amazing because, like Reggie said, I mean, there's over 300 and some odd 50 wineries right now. And 1985, I think we've been just doubling. I mean, and just going with just production and, new vineyards and new wine programs and projects. I mean, it's just still a youthful kind of, wine region. And I mean, we laugh about it, but yeah, I mean, like things are we just getting funky, baby. Like this is this is just getting fun.
We had another question come in with registrations, and this was, how does one get into the winemaking business or ownership of vineyard or winery? And what are some helpful classes or training towards becoming a sommelier? I know, Reggie, you mentioned that you'd taken some classes.
Yeah. You want to dive in first, Lance?
No, I mean, yeah, I was going to just say WSET. Reggie and I are both WSET.
Which stands for, what does that stand for?
Wine and Spirits Education and Training.
Okay.
Yeah, WSET level 1, 2, and then you can go all the way up to you take basically 1 and 2, and then 3 adds a tasting component. 4 is your final one before you can apply for your diploma, your WSET diploma. I'm pretty sure.
You have to write an essay.
Write an essay, and obviously
thesis. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and then the class of like sommelier and WSET are a little bit different. Wine and Spirits Education and Training is more about like winemaking and like get you more into terroir and just more into the varietal and like the business of actually like wineries and grape growing and things of that nature. And, sommelier is obviously encapsulates that, but it gives you more of a kind of a hospitality kind of stance to it as well, like how to kind of execute for service and tasting kind of requirements that you kind of need to know for pairing with food, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, those obviously are great ways to just kind of start, like anybody can apply for those, take a class and pass, fail, et cetera, without having to know anything about wine.
And there are a lot of other types of non-certification based like kind of enthusiast courses and things too, or even like kind of little side quests in wine, if you will, through like Capital Wine School up in Nova. I think it might be in DC proper. I'm not sure. And then where else? Napa Valley Wine Academy does it virtually online, and they do a lot of classes like, surveying a survey of Cabernet Sauvignon or something like that. And they'll send you like little tasting kits of small pours of wine and things like that. So you could do that. There are lots of books that you can read. I highly recommend a book called To Fall in Love, Drink This by Alice Faring. She's a wine journalist, and it's such a beautiful book. That one, and Reading Between the Wines by Terry Thies, who used to be, it may still be, a wine importer, both narrative nonfiction around wine, and they're fascinating. And then if you like history, Wine and War is incredible, and talks about the history of how Champagne was very central to France and Paris specifically, and their kind of connection to the war in a lot of ways, like both as a soft power, but then also even as like one of the things that was leveraged, for different property and things like that during the war. It's fascinating. Wine is just at the center of a lot. Yeah. So you can learn about wine in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, books, man, books. Windows of the World. That's a great book if you haven't.
Yes.
Like Windows of the World. Anthony Zarelli, Kevin Zarelli, excuse me. Anthony is his son. I worked with him, but he was the wine director of the one above the Twin Towers, which is just a phenomenal story. Just kind of reading that book.
Light flex.
Yes, like I mean, that book is just crazy. Another thing I just want to mention, I think we would not be doing ourselves service, but Reggie and I are part of just great programs like the Eurasian Project. Reggie's part of Wine Unify. There's just some also like great programs that you can kind of like look into that are like also offering like scholarships and these things that we are kind of tapping into, which we'll touch into at the end a little bit, that are like sending people to like these kind of like immersive camp programs out in Napa, here in Virginia. Reggie just look at people, places that you can just go and just learn more about wines through these kind of like grant programs. So we'll definitely try to like shout those out or leave them in the chat before we leave too.
Awesome. Now that I've found my pen, Reggie, could you just rattle off those 3 titles again for me really quickly?
Sure. The first one was To Fall in Love, Drink This.
Okay.
The second was Reading Between the Wines. And then the third was Wine and War.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. We've had a couple of other questions. Oh, here we go. Reggie from Barbara Kessler. What do you stock in your wine cooler we see in the background?
I have so much wine, it's ridiculous. I have so much more wine than that's in that cooler. So what's in the cooler? I'm trying to think. All right, top shelf is taller, so champagne and like champagne level bubbles from around the world. Then 2 shelves of Northern Rhone Syrah, mostly Cornas, and then like miscellaneous German Riesling. Then a bunch, like 3 shelves of Portugal, then a couple of shelves of textural white wines, mostly from the Jura and from Spain. And then at the bottom, like 2 shelves of Spätburgunder, which is German Pinot Noir.
Awesome. It's amazing.
Yes.
You just knew that order. Yeah.
I had to visualize it.
So Lance, we're at it's 7:31. So maybe
gosh.
do you want to introduce Family Meal, our other bottle?
Let's do Family Meal.
I love this label.
Yeah, this is I think this is Pat's.
Nicholas's
wine, yes. So long story short, Family Meal. This is Nicholas's wine, and unlike Reggie's room that has a lot of stuff right now, my house is kind of just finishing up renovations, and you don't want to see behind my wine behind me. But this is family meal, and Reggie just kind of showed it. But Nicholas is the owner of part owner of Williams Corner distributors, and Williams Corner is actually who I got both of these wines from, and are very big proprietors and like just movers of some like of my favorite Virginia wines, like Rosemont, Trottenvale, which is a cider, Early Mountain, Blenheim. I could go on for days. Star Party, Lightwell. There's so many more, but they're
Domaine
just
Pinot. Do they
Domaine
do
Pinot, yes,
Yeah.
Matu, Vino del Bosco, Gabriele Rousse's son's kind of cool project, but they're just a really cool distributor. Anyway, I say that because Family Meal is made at Commonwealth Crush, and it's kind of just like what Reggie and I were talking about earlier, kind of like just the fun kind of experimental like incubator place that Commonwealth is, just really trying to do new things in wine that just aren't really set in stone yet in winemaking in Virginia. This is really just a field blend of everything. It's white and red grapes. I mean, I think Ben told us, and we just were like, just stop. We don't need to know like anymore. It's like 20 different varietals in this bad boy. And Nicholas called it Family Meal because it's literally like a drink that you would just bring to the family gathering over a family meal at the table. And I love it. It's my kind of wine that I'm really enjoying right now. Just that light kind of super gluggable, crushable kind of, but also has like flavor and acidity and depth to it as well. Some complexity. And it just kind of tied our story together, really where Reggie and I are making our wine at. And I just wanted to kind of show you like the wines that they're making there, what Reggie and I kind of have in store for the future. And just yeah,
like you own a restaurant and wine shop, like, and y'all have family meal sometimes. Yeah. Like how, like what's the concept of family meal at a restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, family meal is just something that you basically just put together with scraps, like, and not to say scraps, but you put it together with everything that you kind of have like left over to just like make a delicious meal and like feed your employee, feed your staff. So we eat family meal every night at our restaurant. It's definitely like, it is a industry thing. I mean,
yeah.
Back in New York when I worked at ABC Cocina, it's a little John George restaurant. That's a flex, Reggie. But they used to have cooks come in and just make family meal, basically. Like they would just cook family meal, but they would be some it's leftover, like, Michelin star restaurant food, and you take what you can get, and it's good stuff. So
as Wagyu, it is what it is.
Yeah. And so that's basically, again, like just a family meal of all these grapes just putting together, like to enjoy together with your friends and with your family and drink some good wine.
That's awesome. This question came in right before we started family meal. Can you go quickly back to the white and just talk about possible food pairings with the Ricasatelli?
I'll jump in and say what I had it with tonight. Like I just had it with some salmon, and it was great. Like I basically I've been obsessed since the beginning of the pandemic with cooking in the microwave, thanks to Dave Chang, the chef. He has this cookware called Any Day, and so I can microwave salmon in 3 minutes and it's cooked. And so I put some coconut milk and then some curry powder and some salt, and then just put the salmon in it, microwaved it for 3 minutes, and then had that with the Ricasatelli. Exceptional. God,
that boy can cook right there. I'm gonna say, since Reggie's over there giving me the good meal, I'm making escarole tonight with like a little bit of garlic, olive oil. I'm gonna throw some Kalamata olives on that. It might not be like a pairing, but I'm doing like some sausage, some nice like easy chicken sausage that I think will go well with it. And nice. Then so some funky cheese it could go with as well too. I'm gonna put a little parm on there, so I'm gonna hope it goes well. Family meal, you can really drink with anything.
Yeah, I have this snack that I like that's just corn nuts, and that would go super well with the Arcats. I was just thinking about it, like anything super salty, like would go so well with that Arcats. Like and if it's crunchy too, oh my gosh, like that would be so good.
I always go with fried chips. Yes,
a good time that pairs well with it. Like,
Well, I really like the Arcats because it's in its natural form. Like, I mean, like natural. Let me back that up. Woo.
I know what you're
I'm
saying.
used to drinking it in an orange wine style, and to have it as like just like a still wine, it's just super interesting, super cool, and just you see like what that. It kind of makes sense, Reggie, and I'd love to hear your just thought about it. Like, I see why we kind of like why it's so why we make orange wine out of it a little bit more. Why they kind of tame it down with like amphora and like really hone in those aromatic kind of like blossom peach and rounded qualities. You know what I mean? Like I think, and for everybody that's kind of listening, like when we talk about it, definitely go out and search like an orange wine.
Here's one. This
Yeah.
is It's not this one, but but it is an orange wine from Austria, and it's unfiltered, which is why it looks very cloudy. But that is natural wine. So wine that's like, in this case, like it's unfiltered, farmed organically, all that good stuff. I mean, to answer your question, Lance, I kind of think that it's probably just historical a bit, because back in the day, like they didn't have filtering technology.
Right.
And so like there wasn't a way to filter wine, and you actually, there was no such thing as white wine until we were able to like filter wine. It was just like wine made out of white grapes, but the way that they like kept it alive was like adding some of the skin contact, which has tannins, and the tannins kind of protected the juice. And so that's kind of why all white grapes were made into orange wine, until we learned how to filter and stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah, I guess just go back to history, just thinking, you're right about that. But cool.
We have a question just generally about where to find these wines. So I mean, I know, does Blenheim, how wide is their distribution? And how about the family meal? They're wondering, Charlottesville, Northern Virginia.
Yeah, there's I mean, your local wine shops, you should be able to find them.
Pennies in Richmond.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Pennies in Richmond.
Yeah. Come to my wine shop in Richmond. Pennies. Shout out to my third child. I have two kids that are real, and then and a third baby that is my wine shop / wine bar. But definitely find it in Richmond. You can find it in Waynesboro. You can go online. Blenheim sells online, I think. Something really cool that I know we'll kind of hop into here. I'm cheating over here. I'm looking at our kind of run of show. The Universe Club, the Blenheim Wine Club. Shout out to them. I love just joining. I love my little Blenheim Wine Club, man. It's awesome. I think Kirsty, the winemaker there, just I think they just do a great job of just like fruit forward, just like easy drinking juice,
Screw cap. There's no barrier to entry.
Yeah, don't think about it too much. Let's get it going, kind of thing. I mean, I find myself constantly drinking a lot of just Blenheim wine. So wine clubs, definitely sign up for them, and you can get 4 bottles, I think, every other month or something like that. By month. But yeah.
I've just started helping out at a vineyard that's close to my house, Loving Cup.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is an organic vineyard, in North Garden. And to belong to their wine club, you just give them 8 hours a season of harvesting, sorting, helping with the bottling. So much fun, and it's a great way to learn.
That's amazing.
So,
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, work a hard to give you a bunch of wine.
It's true. But you'll also give a bunch of time.
You're also gonna get a bunch of time, and you're gonna get a bunch of wine, but a bunch of time. But if you like wine.
I was gonna say too, I know in Charlottesville, Blenheim is in a lot of places. Like Wegmans actually has a good amount of Blenheim wine, and then a few other Virginia wineries as well. They don't have any of the stuff from Commonwealth Crush, but that's another place that you could find some of the Blenheim wine specifically. I don't remember if the Arcats is in there, but lots of shops in Northern Virginia as well. Screwcap Wine Bar definitely has some up in Northern Virginia. I think that's in Arlington, and I forget the name of a couple of other spots, but one of our friends from Universe pours and does tastings at Screwcap a good bit. Her name's Janelle, so definitely go see her for some Virginia wine if you're in Northern Virginia.
Market Street, Charlottesville.
Yes, definitely Market Street.
Great. So tell us about Enoverse, Reggie. We were so happy you could join this program this week because you have a huge festival coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
So tell us how that got its start and Blenheim Connection, etc.
So like Tracy Love, who runs events and marketing at Blenheim, is an idea maven and just a get it done person, and is one of those people who is super welcoming in Virginia wine. and so we got connected during the pandemic and just started brainstorming, and we were like, what are some things that we could do? And Tracy came up with the name Eniverse after we were going back and forth on a group text for different Instagram names for my wine Instagram handle to separate like my regular stuff from that stuff. And that's where we landed. But we talked about what are some ways that we can make on-ramps to Virginia wine in tangible ways. And so the three kind of main initiatives that have taken shape so far are the Eniverse Club, which Lance alluded to, which happens at Blenheim every other month. And it's curated by a different person who is someone who is traditionally underrepresented in Virginia wine spaces, who curates 4 Blenheim wines that resonate with them, and they change over vintages, and different wines get released different seasons and things like that. And so that 4-pack is $65, which is incredibly affordable, and it gets you 2 free tastings every time you go to Blenheim, which is amazing. And so our goal with that was like to create a wine club that's accessible in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways that we can measure accessibility is this your first time joining a wine club? Then that means that we're actually changing something. We're moving the needle. We're expanding access. The other thing is Eno Camp, which is kind of modeled after Pinot Camp and also Finger Lakes Riesling Camp. Pinot Camp is out in Oregon, and basically these wine boards for different states that have big and emerging wine industries, they will invite influencers and somms and wine professionals to learn about their region, to get them excited to learn about wine. We decided to do that in sort of a similar way, but like in a different way, in the sense that we wanted to invite people who are up and coming as well, who might not get invited on those trips yet, and to ingratiate them to Virginia wine, to give them an opportunity to be in the vineyards, be in the cellar, learn from the winemakers, etc. And then the third thing is 2 Up, Wine Down, which is the hoodie that Lance and I are both wearing, which is what this poster is behind me, and what this hat is as well. And Lance, an exclusive hat, yet to be released, but it will be released this Sunday at 2 Up, Wine Down. And so Lance came up with the name in our group chat for the festival. And so 2 Up, Wine Down is a festival. So if you do like 2 Up, that's V, 2 Down is A, that's Virginia. So 2 Up, 2 Down. And Lance is like, what about 2 Up, Wine Down? And we're like, done. That's it. And so the goal was to create an experience of wine, and specifically of Virginia wine, that's novel, that's new, that feels comfortable, that feels different than a lot of ways that other wine is, that wine can be experienced in other contexts. So we have a DJ, we have like couches and kind of like poofs and things like that out on the lawn of the Jefferson School. It's on the lawn of the Jefferson School, so it's downtown. It's not at a winery. It's not somewhere that's kind of out far. It's a place that people can walk to or get to on a bus or drive to if they're in town, and things like that. All of those are some of the types of things that we wanted to do. Then we invited folks that have been a part of the Eniverse Club or a part of the broader Eniverse community to curate the wines that are there. And they're going to be pouring the wines, talking about them and things like that. It's just going to be a good family time, like wine family time. Like you can bring your kids, but you probably won't want to. But like we're going to have a family meal for real at 2 Up, Wine Down. Yeah. So that's really the spirit of that. And we have folks coming in from around the country to like buy tickets for it, which is amazing that, we're doing this thing in Charlottesville, where we all know that the airport's not the easiest to get to. And people are like figuring it out and coming here, which is amazing. And, we have George Walker III, who works for Dwayne Wade's winery, who's coming out as a friend of Virginia wine. It's called Wade Cellars, is the name of that winery. And so we're kind of building this bridge to Napa, from Napa to Virginia wine, and hoping that more of that community starts to come out here. And the goal is to see just an increase in the expansion of like who's drinking Virginia wine, who's participating in it, who's making it, who's owning vineyards and things like that. And so one of the conversations that we're even having with Commonwealth Crush is about a land incubator, like an ownership incubator to buy vineyard land, and arable land and things like that, not just to make wine. And so we're really wanting to expand Virginia wine to really kind of like broaden the plane of existence.
That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, it's such a great initiative. And I know several friends are attending the festival this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's
It's gonna be a
terrific.
good one. It's gonna be
Excuse
fun.
me.
I said it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be fun.
It is.
You have a couple of shout outs in the chat from friends. It looks like Kevin Nugent in New York, Reggie and Lance. How does it feel to be the face of Virginia wine? Sending love from NYC.
Kevin. Love the
Kevin,
tribute. Thank you.
No, that's awesome. That's great.
And then we have a couple of people who actually participated early on in the pandemic. We did a tasting with Rich Wine. Lance, you may remember, I think it was with the DC Club.
Okay, cool.
Or the Richmond Club. We did a virtual tasting with you, and they said, we love UVA Virginia Wine Month tastings and still remember the Rich Wine virtual tasting early in the pandemic. Thanks so much for arranging this.
Love
That's
that.
awesome. That's so good. Yeah, when Rich Wine was, it was a source for people during a tough time, man. We were doing tastings left and right. It was great to get wine to people in a way that, they could drink and we could get together like this. And yeah, we did a lot of those bad boys.
Exactly. Somebody asked, I guess we have parents on the program. Can we visit the vineyards during Parents Weekend? I
Absolutely.
am sure that's one of the biggest weekends in the year in this area. So what sorts of wines can you mentioned before we started the program that Stinson and a couple other places are, doing some of their processing at Commonwealth Crush. So in that tasting room, I mean, how many vineyards are represented or?
Right now, it's just their projects, Commonwealth Crush. So either the projects that they make and own, or the ones that they're doing custom crush for. So some of their clients, and then they also have some international parallels of winemakers that have influenced their style. So you'll see, like Cab Franc is really big in Virginia, but that's Cab Franc's spiritual home is the Loire Valley in France. And I mean, that was like a very precious way to say that, but that's like kind of where it's from. Yeah, clearly I'm a nerd and I get really into this wine stuff, but I'm like, that's not a normal thing to say about a grape.
Somebody's asking, when will What's This and What's That be available?
Ooh.
Well, what's this white should be out. What month are we in? No, October, November, February, March. Around a little bit after spring, I think, right, Reggie?
Yeah, yep, exactly.
A little bit after spring next year, 2024, and then, it's not gonna like do anything crazy. We're gonna bottle it and then we'll be ready to go with it. The red should be out, hopefully, a little bit after this time next year. Maybe,
do you want to talk about the wine, Lance?
Nah, I mean, do you want to? I mean,
I'm like, we've alluded to the wine. Like, I mean, I feel like
I didn't know if we should I didn't know how to properly get into our project. But
tell us everything about the project. Yes, we want to hear.
Well, Reggie and I, going back to the incubator kind of program at Commonwealth, Ben always wanted to be uplifting in a sense, to be able to allow someone to have the opportunity to make their own label and own wine and own project. And I think for Reggie and I, it was very important that, we wanted to make sure that we were obviously hands-on part of just the bigger picture than just having a label. And so, Reggie and I got the opportunity to make making our own wine this year. It's a small production. We're hoping about 50 cases of each. I want to say about 100 cases total of a white and a red. And our project is called the Parallax Project. And I'll let Reggie tell you a little bit more about Parallax, but our real goal is to basically just kind of highlight what we are very passionate about in hybrids with Chardonnay, and then also just what Virginia has offered with its history and its time in the past, like a grape like Tannat, and just kind of show this parallel, and also this kind of not parallel of these two intersecting kind of paths that the new Virginia wine industry and the new Virginia wine wave is on, along with what is really set the stone in a way for Virginia winemaking in the past. And Reggie and I obviously getting to the point where we had just again organically fell into the situation together. he asked if Reggie and I wanted to be part of this incubator program and be the first to kind of take on the role to make our own wine. And we got to where we are today with the Parallax Project and the What's This and the What's That. And I'll let Reggie tell you a little bit more about the name, because we've been spitballing it back and forth. He's so good at explaining it to
Yeah, I mean, so really what we did was the way that we've it's so wild to have to start from scratch to think
Right.
about like we want to make wine, because the first question that Ben asked us as the consulting winemaker was, so what do y'all want to make? And we're like, oh crap.
I wasn't ready.
Out of all of the grapes in all of Virginia, what do we want to make? We're like, what in the world? And so we quickly started tapping into our wine experience, exposure, knowledge, etc. And we both realized that we liked lighter, fresher styles of red wine, like the family meal, and both of us like chilled this wine a bit to drink it, as an FYI. So like you can totally chill red wine, not like ice cold, but like chilled. And so we started to talk about like what might it look like to make a lighter bodied, fresher style of red wine. And then we were like, oh, and we also love that you do a lot of co-ferments in Lightwell Survey and at Commonwealth Crush. Co-fermenting versus blending being that if you wanted to make a blend of Tannat and Chardonnay, you would ferment the Tannat in a vat or a barrel or a tank, then you would ferment the Chardonnay, and then you would like basically control how much you want to blend them together. Co-fermenting, you throw it all in there. No more control. Like it's a wrap. It's going to do what it's going to do. And that's what we wanted to do. and we loved that. Like we loved that lack of control, like that kind of giving over to the grapes and to trusting the process. And so we knew we wanted to co-ferment. Knew we wanted it to end up lighter, fresher red. And then we were like, oh, and we should probably do a hybrid scenario because we're very into hybrids. And so let's co-ferment a hybrid and vinifera. And so basically, when we're saying hybrids, like most grapes that most people are exposed to in wine are of a species called Vitis vinifera. And then there's this other species of grapes that is a crossbreed of vinifera plus other grapes that are bred for regional needs. And so in Virginia, like we have a lot of rain, we get a lot of ebbs and flows in terms of late frosts, super hot summers, etc. So lots of mold and things like that. And so in order for like classic vinifera grapes to grow, a lot of times you have to spray a lot of chemicals and do a lot of things like that in the vineyard. Not great for sustainability of the earth and things like that. And so hybrids allow you to farm without doing a lot of things to it in terms of spraying and tilling and stuff like that. And so that's kind of what we mean when we say hybrids. And so we decided to co-ferment hybrids, white and red, and get both of those grapes from two different parts of the state. And so we got our Tannat from Northern Virginia, from Loudoun County, from both Hillsborough Vineyard and from Walsh Family Vineyards. And then we got our Chardonnay from Rainbow Hill in the Shenandoah Valley. And so basically parallax is kind of this way of shifting your perspective, but like basically looking at the same thing, but then when you shift your perspective, you see a completely different thing. Kind of when you hold something in front of your face and close one eye and then you open another eye and it looks like it moved but it didn't. It's like kind of a couple of different perspectives on the thing. So it's a couple of different perspectives on the grapes, being like a red wine and a white wine out of the same grapes, on species of grapes, with it being vinifera and labrusca, which is the species for hybrid, and then regions of Virginia, with it being Northern Virginia and Shenandoah Valley. And so we get a chance to kind of tell this parallax story of grapes in Virginia. So the Parallax Project.
Would you spell it for us really quick? We want to keep track of
Parallax,
this
yeah,
project.
Parallax.
Okay.
Parallax. I was just
Awesome.
pretending I was in a spelling bee. Sorry.
That's great. Let me just check the question box. Somebody just said our cazzatelli is great for Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Somebody asked, will this be available for others who missed this discussion to view? Yes, we are recording this and we will send a link out to everybody who registered. Feel free to share. We also have a YouTube channel where we post these programs to watch forever. Let's see, anything else? Do you want to just quickly say, how did you pick the 2 wines that we're focused on this evening? I mean, obviously Blenheim has a lot of different wines.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was just more about the story for real. Like I wanted the Blenheim wine to kind of help tie together like our universe, like this connection. And then I love the Riccatelli there. Like it was one of the whites that I fell in love with first. And then the Commonwealth Crush is just, again, what Reggie said, it's just like my type of wine right now. Just something with a little bit of a chill to it. Just like nice, like like red berry kind of fruit to it. It's just something I can drink anywhere, anytime, with food, without food. And that's definitely, I wanted to tell like a story. I think Reggie and I do like a really good job of just like making sure everything has like meaning to it, right? You know, like hence the name of our project, like how we kind of got into wine. And Blenheim and Commonwealth will have like a brand on me. Well, you know, when I when I get out of here, I'm like, oh yeah, I did wine, and this is like part of like the story about why I'm behind it.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us tonight. It's been super interesting, and good luck with Enoverse. If anybody wants to kind of keep up what's going on with Enoverse and this festival, 2 Up Wine Down, you can follow them on Instagram. And Lance, your store, one more plug for Pennies.
Yeah. Check and definitely come out. Follow us, Reggie. Reggie, you want to throw your Instagram out there?
Yeah, it's at That's So Reg.
Yeah, and then mine is Lance Lemon, just Lance Lemon like the fruit, and then 2 Up Wine Down. Follow Enoverse. I was just trying to figure out like follow Enoverse. What else should we follow? That'll talk about 2 Up Wine Down. Follow Pennies in Richmond. Pennies Wine Shop. That's my brick and mortar wine shop with small plates and delicious wine. Y'all should come by if you're ever in Richmond. Please stop by.
What are you doing tomorrow?
Huh?
Pennies.
Oh yeah, Pennies. We're doing our bar takeover with the Jordan brothers. Dang, Reggie, I've been so busy, man. Thank you. We're doing our bar. Anybody that's in the Midlothian crew that bought wine, come by Pennies tomorrow. We're doing our bar takeover with the Jordan brothers, Ben and Tim. We're pouring up a whole bunch of Virginia wine tomorrow night. Thanks, Reggie. I'm sorry, man.
Absolutely.
I was trying to think of anything else that we need to plug on IG.
We'll put all these in the follow-up email too. We'll put all the links in there so that people will have them in writing.
Yeah,
that's great. And if anyone wants to experience wine in a kind of fancy way, the Virginia Governor's Cup tickets just went on sale yesterday.
Yep.
And so and I think there might be a small, I think there was a discount in the IG post. Don't quote me on that, even though I'm on YouTube in this recording, but there may have been a promo code in Virginia Wine's Instagram. But yeah, anyway, it's a great event. It happens in Richmond, and it's kind of where all of the Governor's Cup winners get unveiled and things like that.
Reggie and I will be there.
Yep.
Awesome. When is that? Do you know the date offhand? Or?
It's in March, but I can't remember offhand. Okay. I want to say it's March 6th or 7th.
Okay, great. So much to think about. I talked to Reggie earlier about this article that was in the New York Times a couple days ago about 500,000, basement winemakers in the United States now, just making vino. So there's so much interest. Love hearing your stories. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everybody at home for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
And we will see you again.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for having us, Robert, with the VGA Club. Thank you. Thanks, Reggie, man.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.